Hello everybody, and welcome back to my cluttered living room. My name is Margot, and today I'm going to be talking about this fantastic book called Hello, Goodbye Dog by Maria Gianferrari. I think I pronounced her name correct. I hope so, fingers crossed. So, I really love this book. It's a really cute story about friendship that features a main character, or like a protagonist with a disability, but the disability is not the plot. Just on a personal note, I wish there were more stories about people with disabilities that were not entirely centered around them. Those kinds of stories are great. Those kinds of stories are fantastic. They teach kids valuable things, but it also tells kids with disabilities that they're limited to certain kinds of stories, and I'm just kind of uncomfy with that. So this is a really good way to tell a story about a kid with a disability that's really more about friendship than it is about her being a kid in a wheelchair, which I really like. I have the same kind of feelings about books about like trans kids and teens or gay kids and teens, where it's just the entire plot is about them just being trans or gay. Like, I love George. George is a fantastic book, but it's just a book about a little girl who's trans, and it's basically just about her transness and not about her as a person, her likes and dislikes. It's just about sort of conflict and suffering, or exploiting, or like just telling the same story. Not that George is exploiting, but I just wish that there were more stories that were not just, this character is X thing, here's some information, goodbye, and like goes into them as people. I want kids to be able to see themselves in adventures. So yeah, this is little mini rant aside. This is Hello, Goodbye Dog. And it is mostly about her dog named Moose. "Hello, Moose," said Zara. There was nothing Moose loved more than hello. Hello was a ride in the car. "Goodbye, Moose," said Zara. "It's time for school." Moose put on her brakes. It took Mom and Dad to get Moose to leave. There was nothing Moose disliked more than goodbye. Goodbye was an itch that couldn't be scratched. When Mom checked the mailbox, out zoomed Moose. It was time to say hello. Two paws patted on the glass. "Oh my," said Mrs. Perkins. "It's my dog, Moose," said Zara. "Hello, Moose," said the class. Hello was a pat on the head. "Dogs aren't allowed in school," said Mrs. Perkins. "Moose will be quiet," said Zara. She loves story time. Moose lay at Zara's feet as Mrs. Perkins read a story. "Goodbye, Moose," said Zara. Moose put on her brakes, and it took Mom and Dad and Zara and Mrs. Perkins to get Moose to leave. Goodbye was Moose being tied up in the backyard. Moose chewed through the rope. It was time to say hello. "Hello, Moose," cried Zara. Hello was having a book and somebody to read it to you. "Dogs aren't allowed in the library," said Mrs. Chen. "Moose will be quiet," said Zara. "She likes it when I read to her." Zara read, kids listened, and Moose's tail swept in circles on the rug. "Goodbye, Moose," said Zara. Moose put on her brakes, and it took Mom, Dad, Zara, Mrs. Perkins, Miss Chen to get Moose to leave. Goodbye was a closing door. But Moose pushed through the screen. It was time to say hello. "Hello, Moose," said Zara. Hello smelled like homemade cookies. "Dogs aren't allowed in the cafeteria," said one of the lunch ladies. "She'll be quiet. I'll just read to her," said Zara. Zara read. One kid sat, and then another, until the table was full. Moose's tail thumped on the floor. "What's that dog doing in here?" said Principal Evans. "It's time for goodbye, Moose," said Zara. But Moose was tired of goodbye. A game of tag was on. Principal Evans was it. Chairs tipped, kids slipped, teachers tripped, trays flipped, and Moose skipped right back to Zara. And then Moose got tagged. "Goodbye, Moose," said Zara. It took Mom, Dad, Zara, Mrs. Perkins, Miss Chen, Principal Evans, and all the lunch ladies to get Moose to leave. Goodbye was tag without an it. Goodbye was a tug and no war. Goodbye was hide without seek. Goodbye was being alone. "Oh, woo!" yowled Moose. She needed to say hello, but Zara wasn't there. "Hello, Moose," said Zara. "I know you do not like goodbyes, and I have an idea." Zara took Moose to therapy dog school. Moose was tested on her temperament, on sitting, laying down, and staying, on being with children, on being around wheelchairs, and finally Moose was ready. The next day, Moose joined Zara in the classroom. "Hello, Moose," said the class. Mrs. Perkins, Miss Chen, Principal Evans, and all the lunch ladies. Welcome, class reading dog. So, I absolutely love this book. This book is really, this book's about Moose. This isn't Zara's story. Zara's important to Moose. But this is really just about Moose wanting kids to read books to her, and I just think that's really sweet. It features a character in a wheelchair, but that's not her only personality trait. It's not her only part. It's about friendship and wanting to read books with kids, and so, I think this is really solid representation, and also having reading therapy dogs, which I love. We have a program at my library called Tail Wagging Readers, where we have kids come and read with the puppies. On another note, I have a couple of other books with some representation of kids with disabilities in them. I'm not going to be reading them. I'm just going to sort of give them a little temporary shout out and talk about them. This one's called Janine, which is about a little girl who is very different, and she has a bit of a hard time with kids in her class thinking she's strange. And Janine, it doesn't say specifically what sort of disability or difference she has, but it goes on to how she's sort of hyperfixated on things. She remembers a lot of things. It's just very sweet about her making friends with the people in her class, people being mean to her, but then the class sort of coming around. So this one's pretty decent. I like Hello, Goodbye Dog the best. I just went by what we had at the library. This is a wordless picture book called The Snow Rabbit. It's about two sisters who are at home during a snowy day, and one sister can go outside, but the other sister is in a wheelchair and can't. So the one sister makes a little rabbit out of snow, and it's super beautiful. The illustrations are done in sort of a diorama form. They're all paper cutouts. And it's about the sort of imaginative journey they go on. So she brings the bunny inside that she's made out of snow and it starts melting. So they decide to go outside so it won't melt. It sort of comes to life and becomes this giant bunny. And then they ride it around in the snow. And it's just a very sweet, cute little wordless story about some sisters and imagination, and it's just absolutely lovely. It is gorgeous. So yeah, that is my review for this week. I'm excited to see what y'all do, and I will see you next time.